Hello and welcome back to Green the Grid and Electrify Everything. I am your host, Cal Truman, the Education and Careers Coordinator for New Yorkers for Clean Power. This is the third video in the Green the Grid sequence. We've gone through the problems with fossil fuels in the first video, and in the second video, we covered what the goals, as far as climate goals are for New York State, and where the pollution that's warming the climate is coming from in New York State. We broke that down into 6 sectors, the first of which was buildings, and so I'm going to talk to you about buildings in this video. This is a rural-focused section. If you'd like a city-focused section on videos, there is a separate one for that. So let me share my screen. One moment, please. And here we are. Great. Let me put this here. Perfect. So buildings. 32% of the climate warming emissions in New York State come from buildings. There are somewhere between 6 and 8 million buildings in New York State, so they are our largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. How do we address these emissions? One of the tools is energy efficiency. So energy efficiency is a top priority for cutting these emissions. For existing structures, a good place to start is an energy audit. So one by one in these 6 to 8 million buildings, you have a professional come in and they can assess the building or house for air leaks, whether they need better insulation, whether there are appliances or heating and cooling systems that should be upgraded. So all of these can be addressed by an energy auditor coming to the building. Some of the tools pictured here are a blower door test, which is used by most energy auditors to find air leaks in the house. This is an infrared picture of a house, which is used to see where heat is escaping. So you can see the windows are not very well sealed. And then this photo on the side is just a diagram of some common air leaks in a house. So these are some places that you can save energy just by sealing up those leaks or improving the insulation, or maybe even getting new windows, things like that. NYSERDA is an agency name you will hear a lot when you talk about clean energy and energy efficiency. So NYSERDA is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and they fund a lot of clean energy programs in the state. Some of those programs make energy efficiency and renewable energy more accessible, particularly to low and middle income New Yorkers. So they do a lot of financial incentives and grants and things like that. So Assisted Home Performance and Empower New York are 2 programs that do that. I believe over the next few months, they're going to roll it all together and just call it all Empower New York and direct people towards the income level benefits that they're eligible for. But both of these programs do have income cutoffs, but they can help with home and business owners as well as renters in paying for weatherization upgrades to their buildings or even apartments. And you can even get some services for free. Like it's possible to get an energy auditor to come to your home or business for a reduced fee or occasionally for free. So so it's worth looking into that. This link here directs you to those services. And if you have questions about that, towards the end of the video series, I will explain our clean energy coaches who can help with any of the questions about incentives and paying for things and going through those processes. Another step in energy efficiency is knowing what to do when your existing appliances kick the bucket. So if you've got one of these or even an old set of these, if any of those, old, not super efficient or fossil fuel heating systems in your home, you can save a lot of money and energy by changing up what kind of heating system you have when the old one finally dies. And it's important to make a plan before that happens, because in a crisis, the easiest thing to do is plug and play, get exactly the same kind of equipment you had before. So it's a good idea to plan ahead so that when an existing fossil fuel or inefficient system is at the end of its life, you can replace it with an efficient electrical heating and cooling system. So the simplest upgrades for existing buildings are heat pumps. And a heat pump works like the coil on the back of your refrigerator in reverse. It finds heat in the air or in the ground or wherever it's located, and it takes that heat energy and just sends it into your building or into your water. So these appliances pictured are air source heat pumps. They're incredibly efficient. For every kilowatt hour of electricity you use, you get 3 kilowatt hours of heat energy. So they're terrific as far as efficiency goes. Older models were less effective in very low temperatures, and that's something people still think about when they think of heat pumps. But cold climate heat pump technology has really evolved in the recent years to make heat pumps feasible in places with very fierce winters. My mother, for example, lives in Maine, and she's got heat pumps and is very happy with them. So adding in a wood or pellet stove for supplemental heating can make it even cozier, but heat pumps, really can and do stand alone. And a special bonus, especially as the summers become hotter and longer, you can run your heat pump in reverse to provide cooling and also dehumidifying. So it's a one-stop shop as far as these appliances go. And if you pair a heat pump with solar or other renewable power, air source heat pumps are an excellent renewable heat option. So this is what the outside units look like. And in both of these cases, they're under a little bit of a lip on the roof or under their own little roof just to prevent snow from piling on top of them, which, in some areas of New York State is a really good idea, especially some of the snowier regions. And then the indoor unit just looks like this. It's just a little box, and the little fins at the bottom open, and they send the conditioned air out into the space. And they're just connected by a little tube that's covered up, so it looks nice. Let's see. There's also ground source heat pumps, some of which are called geothermal. You may be more familiar with that term. They're also a great option. They're even more efficient, if you can believe it, than the air source heat pumps, especially in the winter, because the temperature of the Earth stays about 55 degrees. So you're not trying to find heat energy in 12-degree cold weather. You're pulling it out of 55-degree temperatures. So it's a lot more feasible and a lot less work. The thing to know about ground source heat pumps is they're more invasive to install. They involve either drilling a well or digging up a decent footprint of the lawn or the yard. You can see a little person over here for scale. So, that's a big footprint to have to dig up to lay the coiled piping in to do that heat exchange, to be able to pull that heat out. So they're slightly easier for new construction when everything's all dug up anyway, but they're an excellent source of renewable heating and cooling as well. And the various companies that install ground source heat pumps will do it on existing buildings as well. It's not a bad idea. It's just a little easier with new construction because you're already digging. And again, there is funding assistance from NYSERDA and the electrical utility companies if you're interested in upgrading to heat pumps. This is true for businesses and municipalities as well as for homes. So feel free to, again, I'll talk about the clean energy coaches in the final video in this series. So please reach out to them or to me after the presentation if you want assistance with this, and we can set you up with an appointment with one of the energy coaches to walk you through the process, both of identifying whether heat pumps are a good fit for you or your business, and also figuring out how to pay for it. So there are programs to help offset the upfront costs of upgrading to heat pumps, but how do the ongoing costs compare? This graph is from Efficiency Maine, so the regional costs are slightly different. Like, I don't know what cordwood costs in Maine compared to, any part of New York State, but they know what they're talking about when it comes to the cold. So let's see. As you can see, renewable heating is the best bang for your buck, no matter how you look at it. And you can see 2021 is when this graph came out. So that data is from before the invasion of Ukraine, which set the market for fossil fuels into a turmoil. So the price fluctuation there you can avoid if you're not getting your heat from gas or oil. So, and then of course you don't have the environmental and health costs of drilling, transporting, and burning fossil fuels. So you can really save money and do something good for the planet by upgrading to heat pumps as opposed to continuing to burn, oil or gas, which is usually what you come with what your house would come with. So let's say you've made all these upgrades, right? Everything in your house runs on electricity, and then a storm hits and a tree falls on a power line and the electricity goes out. So first of all, yikes, that's not a good position to be in. No matter what kind of heating you have, most heat systems do not run if the electricity is off anyway, the exception being a wood stove. So it's not a bad idea to have a wood stove if you live in a place with frequent outages to supplement you through the worst of the winter. But it's also worth considering home battery backup, particularly paired with on-site solar, because then those solar panels can recharge the battery at your house, even if you're not getting any electricity coming in from the electrical grid. So the version of this that most people are familiar with is the Tesla Powerwall. There are a bunch of companies that make home-size batteries, and they range in size from maybe, honestly, from about a mini fridge to a full-size refrigerator, depending on how big your energy needs are and which company you go with. A properly sized battery system paired with solar energy can keep the lights and the fridge in your house on indefinitely through a grid outage. They're not cheap. I will say that the home battery backup is relatively expensive. The price is probably not going to come down a ton in the near future, but over the next decade, we are looking to see a lot more battery manufacturing happening in the United States, which will make these more available and less expensive. Currently, the same technology that goes into something like a Tesla Powerwall, like these other kinds of home battery backups, is the same technology that's used in electric vehicles and that's used in really big grid scale battery backup sometimes. We'll talk about that in the electrical section, but suffice to say, there's a lot of demand for lithium ion batteries, which is the kind that something like a Tesla Powerwall is. So until the supply catches up with that demand, I don't think that price is going to come down very much. Fortunately, there are federal incentives to help make them a little more affordable, and I believe that as of the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act, that incentive is a 30% tax rebate. So you get a little bit off the top there. And especially if you run a business out of your home or you have medical gear that can't be shut down, it's worth looking into them. This slide is just to say that all of these energy saving measures that work for individual homes will work for businesses and municipal buildings too. So energy auditing over here, we got this nice one with the clipboard. Sealing up leaks and drafts. These are some window inserts that make the, historical building windows less leaky, less drafty. Upgrading to more efficient appliances, so getting an industrial scale air source heat pump system on the roof instead of relying on a gas boiler, and upgrading to LEDs. All of these things are excellent cost saving measures on a municipal scale, and the state has clean energy communities and climate smart communities programs that can provide guidance to get you started. So again, this is something to ask us about if you have questions and you want to do more on the municipal level, or if you've got a business you'd like to get outfitted with any of this technology. So that is the end of this section, and the next video will be about transportation. Thank you for your attention, and I hope to see you in the next video.